My friends, I want to share with you tonight a truth so profound, so revolutionary, that it will shatter everything you think you know about money. Listen carefully, for what I am about to reveal has the power to transform your entire relationship with abundance. Every time you touch money, you speak even if your mouth is silent. Every time you hold it, pass it, count it, spend it, receive it, your entire being issues a command to the creative forces of the universe. Your assumption declares what shall be. The world has lied to you, my dear friends. They have told you that money is neutral, that it is separate from spirit, that it is a tool to be used and feared in equal measure. But I tell you, with all the conviction of one who has witnessed this truth in countless lives, money is not a dead thing. It is alive. It is consciousness made visible. Money is a servant of the law of assumption, and it listens with perfect obedience to the tone of your heart and the rhythm of your inner conversations. Most people touch money in fear. They hold it with hesitation. They count it with tension. They spend it with dread. They say, "I can't afford that," and wonder why money flees from them. They say, "Money doesn't come easily," and wonder why their purse remains empty. They speak lack while holding supply. They declare emptiness while touching proof of the infinite abundance that is their birthright. And then they wonder why it does not multiply. But listen to this carefully. Money does not respond to effort. It responds to assumption, to feeling, to the state of consciousness you occupy. You must now treat every money moment as sacred. Every bill you hold, every coin you find, every transaction you enter. These are not mundane acts. These are opportunities for the most profound spiritual demonstration. The moment you touch money, you are standing at the altar of creation. Your assumption in that moment either multiplies or diminishes your future. Your feeling either opens or closes the channels of abundance. Do not let another dollar pass through your hands without recognizing its true nature, without commanding it from the state of abundance, without speaking the truth over it from the feeling of already having received. I say this plainly, if you are not assuming increase when you handle money, you are silently permitting loss. Because in the realm of consciousness, there is no neutral state. When you assume nothing, the world assumes for you, and the world's assumption is always lack, limitation, and fear. But when you assume abundance, when you feel wealthy, when you live in the state of already having received, then money must obey. Not because of magic, but because of the immutable law of consciousness. Let your new assumption begin today. Every time you touch money, no matter the amount, you will enter a state. Not just say words, but feel the reality of what you are assuming. You will occupy the state of one who recognizes money as divine substance. When you handle money, assume this. Divine substance cannot be depleted. I recognize this money as spiritual reality made visible, and I see it multiply under grace, in perfect ways. You must not speak as one who hopes. You must feel as one who knows, because consciousness does not respond to begging. It responds to the assumption of already having received. Money is not dirty, my friends. It is not evil. It is not carnal. That is the world's doctrine, not the truth of consciousness. The great deception is this, that money belongs to man, that it is created by governments, that it is earned by toil, and lost by circumstance. But I declare to you boldly, money is God's invisible supply made visible. It is divine substance, taking form according to your assumption. It is the formless becoming form in response to your dominant mental state. There is no conflict between money and spirit, only between ignorance and truth, between the assumption of lack and the assumption of abundance. The same consciousness that gives you life gives you sustenance. The same source that breathed you into being holds nothing back from your every need. When you separate money from the divine, you strip it of its power to multiply. But when you recognize it as consciousness made visible, you allow it to flow, to increase, to serve your every good. The issue is never the money itself. It is always the state of consciousness that handles it. Do not treat money as common. Do not approach it with fear, with guilt, or with disdain. Do not say, "It's just $1." Do not say, I hate dealing with money. Do not mock the instrument of your good. What you assume to be worthless cannot stay. What you feel resistant about cannot flow freely. What you resent in consciousness, you repel in experience. But what you recognize as divine, you multiply. What you assume to be abundant, you attract. What you feel grateful for returns with increase. Money is spiritual substance. It is a medium of exchange, yes, but it is also a mirror, reflecting your deepest assumptions about abundance. If you assume lack, it disappears. If you feel guilty about having it, it withholds itself. But if you recognize it as divine substance, if you feel it as a child of infinite abundance, it will flow toward you in ever-increasing waves. Never again assume money is hard to come by. Instead, live in the feeling of this truth. God is my instant, constant, and lavish supply. Large sums of money come to me quickly under grace in perfect ways. This is not mere poetry, my friends. This is the law of consciousness in operation. When you assume this with feeling, when you live in this state with conviction, it becomes your reality. It does not matter how much money you have now. What matters is the state you occupy when you think about money. Money is like water. It flows where it is welcomed with the feeling of abundance. It evaporates where it is cursed with the assumption of lack. You must become a sacred channel through which divine substance flows freely, not hoarded in fear, not clutched in desperation, but recognized and blessed from the state of already having received. Bless every dollar that enters your experience. Feel grateful for every coin you find. Assume abundance with every payment you make. And as you do, say from the depths of your being, this money is divine substance. It cannot be depleted. It flows to me and through me under grace and multiplies as it moves. You will discover that what once seemed to escape you now remains. What once appeared delayed now arrives swiftly. What once seemed hidden now reveals itself abundantly. Not because the money has changed, but because you have changed. And as your assumption shifts, so must your world. This is not theory, my dear friends. This is not mysticism for its own sake. This is spiritual law in operation. Whatever you assume with feeling multiplies in your experience. This law works with mathematical precision. It does not matter what the world economy appears to be. It does not matter what your bank account seems to show. The moment you assume abundance with genuine feeling, without internal contradiction, you open the floodgates of divine increase. The law of multiplication is embedded in the very fabric of creation. The seed multiplies when planted in fertile soil. The loaves and fishes multiplied when blessed with gratitude. The talents multiplied when invested with faith. It is consciousness delighting to express itself as abundance. But that abundance cannot enter a heart that assumes scarcity as its natural state. Most people hold their last dollar in fear. They clutch it and say, I must hold on, or I'll have nothing. But I say to you, assume abundance with that dollar. Feel wealthy with that dollar. Recognize it as divine substance containing the spiritual pattern of millions. Let me share with you the story of a woman who had only $2 remaining. The world would have called her destitute, but she held those dollars in her hands and assumed this reality. This is God's money. It is spiritual substance. It cannot be diminished because God cannot be diminished. I feel it multiplying now under grace in perfect ways. Within 1 week, $6,000 had come to her through a channel she had never imagined. Did her assumption create the money? No. Her assumption of abundance allowed her to receive what was already hers in consciousness. You see, the money is never absent. It is only out of harmony with your assumption. Your feeling is your tuning fork. Your assumption is your point of attraction. Your recognition of abundance is your invitation to receive. Stop asking where the money will come from. Instead, assume from the feeling, money is here. Money is ready. Money now multiplies under grace in perfect ways. Feel this not as a hope for the future, but as a present reality. The loaves and fishes were not multiplied through worry about supply. They were not multiplied through calculating the need. They were multiplied through the assumption of abundance, looking up with gratitude, giving thanks, and then proceeding from the state of already having received. You too must approach what you have, not with the assumption of insufficiency, but with the feeling of abundance. Take what you have, and assume this reality. I recognize this money as divine substance. I feel grateful for its presence. I assume its multiplication now, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. Now I give you an assumption, not as a magic formula, not as empty words, but as a divine recognition of truth. This is a declaration to consciousness, a command to the creative forces within you. You are not saying it to convince God. You are not saying it to test the law. You are assuming it because you now understand that money responds to the feeling of abundance. Assume this every time you touch money. Divine substance cannot be depleted. I recognize this money as spiritual reality and feel it multiply under grace in perfect ways. Say it when you receive payment. Assume it when you pay bills. Feel it when you make purchases, when you give tips, when you transfer funds, when you count your money, when you make donations. Assume it with the breath of certainty. Feel it slowly, deeply. Assume it like a king recognizing his treasury, like a priest blessing a sacred offering, because that is exactly what you are doing. You are blessing your relationship with abundance. You are commanding multiplication, not through effort, but through recognition. The law of consciousness hears your assumption. The universe responds to your feeling. You do not need to know the channel through which increase will come. You do not need to calculate the mechanism. Your assumption is not about logic. It is about the feeling of already having received. When you assume abundance, you shift your entire vibrational state. When you feel wealthy, you rise above the assumption of lack. When you recognize money as divine substance, you align with the infinite storehouse that is always full. Let your relationship with money be transformed. You no longer touch it with dread. You no longer feel shame when you spend. You no longer shrink when you give. You no longer fear when you look at your accounts. You assume abundance, and the assumption governs the result. Money must multiply where it is recognized as divine substance. This is law, not because of your personal power, but because of the infinite creative force expressing itself through your assumption. You are not the source, you are the channel. You are the one who assumes, and the one who assumes abundance from the feeling of already having received plenty. You must understand this with absolute clarity. If money continues to elude you, it is not because money is unfaithful. It is because your assumption has been one of lack, and consciousness has faithfully reproduced your assumption as your experience. Every idle assumption you make about your financial situation becomes a command to the creative forces within you. Every time you assume, I can't afford that, or money goes out faster than it comes in, or I'm always struggling financially, you are not describing a condition, you are creating one. Consciousness does not analyze your intent. It does not consider your mood. It simply responds to your assumption with mathematical precision. Your subconscious mind hears your every mental declaration and moves to make your assumption your reality. You may think these assumptions casually, habitually, without much attention, but consciousness receives them as absolute instructions and proceeds to fulfill them with perfect fidelity. So I ask you, what have you been assuming about your money? What have you been feeling when paying bills? What have you been thinking when looking at your accounts? What have you been assuming in conversations about your financial situation? Every assumption is a seed in consciousness, and every seed brings forth after its kind. It is time to assume differently. It is time to feel abundance where you once felt lack. It is time to recognize divine substance where you once saw limitation. Assume this when you handle your finances. I do not operate from lack. I assume abundance as my natural state. Money flows to me freely because I recognize it as divine substance. This is not denial of present circumstances. This is recognition of the creative power within you. The reality that forms next will be the one that corresponds to your most dominant assumption. Every time you part with money, you are declaring what you assume about infinite supply. Most people assume they are being diminished when they pay. They feel they are losing something precious. But I tell you the truth. You are not spending money, You are circulating divine substance. What you release with the feeling of abundance returns to you multiplied, because you have assumed the law of increase to be operating in your experience. Payment is not depletion. It is a spiritual transaction. It is proof that you assume the source of all good will replenish what you have released. Never again feel fear when making payments. Never again assume loss when bills arrive. These reactions are assumptions of lack, and consciousness, hearing your assumption, responds not with increase but with more of what you have assumed. You must now handle money as a priest handles sacred vessels, with reverence, with recognition, with the feeling of abundance. When you pay for anything, assume this reality. I release this with joy, knowing that what I give in the feeling of abundance returns to me multiplied and overflowing. This is not wishful thinking. This is the mathematics of consciousness. What you assume with genuine feeling always returns with increase. What you release in the recognition of abundance creates immediate pathways for more. Payment becomes proof of circulation, and circulation is the law of consciousness made manifest. You were never meant to hoard in fear, to clutch in desperation, to assume scarcity. You were meant to assume abundance, to feel wealthy, to command the flow of divine substance. When bills arrive, assume this. This is not a burden. This is proof that I am trusted with divine substance. I send it forth with gratitude, and it returns to me tenfold. Now your bills are no longer sources of fear. They become opportunities to demonstrate your assumption of abundance. When you pay from the feeling of wealth, you transform apparent obligations into channels of increase. Your rent becomes a declaration of abundance. Your utilities become affirmations of supply. Your expenses become investments in the law of circulation. Feel grateful for your outgoing with the same intensity you feel grateful for your incoming, because it is all one flow, all one assumption made manifest. Every visible demonstration of wealth begins with an invisible assumption. There is no exception to this law. Your riches do not begin in the bank account. They do not begin in the job, the business, or the investment. They begin in consciousness. They begin with what you assume before they appear. Most people wait to feel abundant until they see abundance. But that is not how consciousness works. Consciousness is cause, not effect. The feeling of abundance is the cause. The visible wealth is the effect. I have witnessed this truth countless times. I knew a woman who had nothing visible to justify optimism. No money in sight, no opportunities apparent, no doors opening. But she had learned the law of assumption. She would sit quietly and assume this reality. I see abundance surrounding me. I feel wealthy now. I assume that large sums of money are flowing to me in perfect ways. She would actually visualize specific amounts, feel the reality of receiving them, live in the assumption of already having them. Before any physical evidence appeared, she was living in the state of abundance. And because consciousness must externalize what you assume with feeling, her assumption became her reality. Do not wait until you have proof to assume abundance. Assume abundance, and the proof will follow. Do not say, I'll feel wealthy when I see the money. That is the assumption of lack disguised as practicality. Instead, assume, I feel wealthy now, and my wealth is becoming visible because I have assumed it to be so. Your world is nothing but the externalization of your most dominant assumptions. Scripture reveals this pattern. God calleth those things which be not as though they were. This is the divine method. Not describing the seen, but assuming the unseen. Not waiting for abundance to appear, but creating it through assumption, and living in that assumption until it becomes visible. Your assumption is your spiritual mold. When you assume wealth with genuine feeling, your subconscious mind accepts the pattern and begins to arrange circumstances to match your assumption. So assume it before it appears. Feel it while your wallet seems empty. Live in it while your account appears insufficient. Assume not to convince yourself, but to instruct consciousness. And consciousness, once instructed through feeling, begins to gather all necessary elements to fulfill your assumption. Assume this now. I see riches surrounding me. I walk in financial abundance every day. My supply multiplies both visibly and invisibly. Feel it again tomorrow, and again the next day, until your inner world accepts it as fact, and your outer world can no longer resist its manifestation. Do not jest about money. Do not mock your supply. Do not make yourself the object of poverty jokes and expect wealth to honor you. This is not superstition. This is the law of consciousness in operation. Your subconscious mind has no sense of humor about your assumptions. It records every feeling, every assumption, every inner conversation as absolute instruction. It does not distinguish between what you assume seriously and what you assume jokingly. I remember a woman who repeatedly assumed, "One day I'll be living in a cardboard box." She laughed when she said it. Others laughed with her, but her subconscious mind was not laughing. It was accepting her assumption as her desired reality and arranging circumstances to fulfill it. Soon enough, that was exactly her situation. Not because she lacked ability or opportunity, but because she had assumed her own limitation and consciousness had faithfully reproduced her assumption. You must understand, there is no such thing as a neutral assumption. There are only assumptions that align with abundance and assumptions that align with lack. When you joke about being poor, your subconscious mind assumes poverty to be your desired state. When you mock the wealthy, your consciousness ensures you never become one. When you laugh at your own financial struggles, you extend your season of difficulty. Words and assumptions are not toys. They are tools of creation. They are sacred instruments of consciousness. Use them with reverence. Use them with intention. Use them only to assume what you truly desire to experience. If you have assumed foolishly about your finances, you can change your assumption now. Feel this reality. Every limiting assumption I have made about money is now cancelled, reversed, and replaced by the assumption of abundance. Then replace every assumption of lack with the assumption of abundance. Replace every feeling of scarcity with the feeling of wealth. Replace every inner conversation about limitation with inner conversations about infinite supply. Say this instead: I assume only increase. I feel only abundance. I recognize only divine provision. Let your assumptions become your wealth, and let your inner conversations become your outer circumstances. If you would see wealth appear in your outer world, you must first assume it in your inner world. This is the formula of all manifestation, the divine architecture that governs all creation. First comes the assumption, then the feeling, then the visible manifestation. All things first exist in consciousness, then are sealed through feeling, then formed in the world of experience. This is the rhythm of divine demonstration, and it cannot be bypassed, rushed, or replaced by effort, logic, or luck alone. You must become the architect of your abundance. You must enter the sanctuary of your consciousness and build, not with struggle, but with assumption, not with worry, but with the feeling of already having received. You must see your wealth before the world can see it. You must feel your abundance before the world confirms it. Consciousness waits for leadership, and your leadership begins with assumption backed by feeling. Let this become your daily practice. Close your eyes and assume your wealth, not in fantasy, not in desperation, but in the recognition of truth. See yourself abundant. Feel yourself financially free. Assume your bills are paid. Your accounts are full. Your giving is generous. Do not concern yourself with the mechanism. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to assume the end result and feel it as already accomplished. Then assume what you have visualized. Declare it with feeling. Even if your present circumstances seem to contradict it. Even if your bank account appears to mock it. Even if the world calls you delusional, assume it anyway. Assume, I see my wealth. I feel my abundance. I recognize my infinite supply. What I assume with feeling must now appear under grace and in perfect timing. Walk as one who has already received, and stop begging consciousness for what you want. Start assuming you already have it, and let your entire being move in harmony with your assumption. Stand with the posture of abundance, speak with the voice of wealth, and move with the confidence of one who knows their supply is infinite. These are not pretenses. They are the natural expressions of your assumption made manifest. There are two moments of extraordinary power in every day. the moment before sleep, and the moment of awakening. These are the sacred windows when your subconscious mind is most receptive to new assumptions. What you assume during these moments does not simply pass away. It plants itself deeply in the fertile soil of your subconscious and governs everything that follows. So I instruct you, assume abundance at night and assume abundance in the morning, not as routine, but as recognition of law. Consciousness responds to rhythm, to consistency, to the repeated assumption of your desired reality. Before you close your eyes at night, assume this. I now rest in the assumption of abundance. I see wealth surrounding me. Every dollar I touch is blessed and multiplied. I sleep in the feeling of financial freedom. Let this assumption be the last vibration your consciousness remembers. Let it echo through your subconscious mind while you sleep. Let your dream state be governed by abundance, not by fear. While you sleep, the assumption takes root. While you rest, your subconscious mind rearranges your inner world to match your assumption. And while you dream, consciousness moves unseen forces into alignment with your feeling of abundance. When morning comes, do not immediately engage with the world's assumptions about money. Do not check your phone, your email, your news, until you have first renewed your assumption of abundance. Greet your supply. Welcome the invisible wealth that is now moving toward you. Assume the same reality again with fresh feeling and renewed conviction. I wake in the assumption of abundance. I see wealth surrounding me. Every dollar I touch returns to me blessed and multiplied. I walk in financial freedom today. Touch your wallet, touch your purse, and recognize them not as mere objects, but as symbols of your assumption made manifest. There is one barrier more dangerous than doubt, more persistent than fear, more hidden than any obvious obstacle. It is guilt about wealth, guilt about wanting abundance, guilt about receiving while others appear to lack. This invisible thief of demonstration must be removed. For even when you assume correctly and feel genuinely, guilt in your heart will reject what your consciousness has accepted. You must cleanse yourself of every false belief that suggests you are unworthy of wealth, that wanting money is selfish, that having abundance is wrong. These are not spiritual truths. They are human interpretations of limitation wrapped in the disguise of morality. The truth is this: your wealth serves the highest good when you receive it through the recognition of abundance. Consciousness is not offended by your overflow. The infinite is not diminished by your plenty. Divine substance is not reduced by your abundance. When you assume wealth, you do not take from others. You simply align with abundance more quickly. You become a living demonstration that the law of assumption works. You become proof that consciousness can transform any circumstance. Feel this truth. It is right for me to assume abundance. I use money in love, and money flows to me in peace. The law of assumption never fails. It is not partial to some and not to others. It is not delayed by circumstances, economics, or opinions. It does not consider how long you have struggled or how many times you have failed. It responds to the assumption of abundance declared with feeling, backed by faith, and maintained with consistency. When you assume rightly and do not contradict your assumption, consciousness must fulfill it. Assume this with complete conviction. The law never fails. I assume my abundant supply, and it must appear under grace and in perfect ways. Let this become your unwavering assumption. Do not question how it will happen. Do not watch for immediate evidence. Simply assume and maintain your assumption until it becomes your reality. Because when you assume abundance with genuine feeling, the law of consciousness ensures that your assumption becomes your experience. And so it is, and so it shall be. Tonight, I want to share with you something that will change how you see every single moment of your life. What if I told you that everything, every person you meet, every number you see, every song that plays at precisely the right moment, is not coincidence, but conversation? A divine dialogue between your consciousness and the very fabric of reality itself. You see, my friend, you have been living in a world that speaks to you constantly, but you have forgotten the language. Tonight, we remember. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever thought of someone you haven't spoken to in years, only to have them call you within hours? Have you ever opened a book to a random page and found the exact answer to a question that had been burning in your mind? Have you ever noticed the same sequence of numbers, 111, 222, 333, appearing everywhere you look, as if reality itself were leaving breadcrumbs for you to follow? If you have experienced any of these, then you have been touched by what I call the secret language of reality. And tonight, you will learn to speak it fluently. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are not merely a physical being stumbling through a random universe. Imagine instead that you are pure consciousness, wearing the garment of flesh, moving through a reality that is as responsive to your inner states as clay is to the potter's hands. This is not imagination. This is truth. When I speak of synchronicities, I am not speaking of mere coincidences. I am speaking of the language of God, the whispers of your own wonderful human imagination made manifest in the world of Caesar. Every meaningful coincidence, every perfect timing, every moment when the outer world mirrors your inner conversations, these are not accidents. They are appointments. You see, from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep, you are in constant conversation with infinite intelligence. But this conversation does not happen through words. It happens through experience. Through the seemingly random events that are not random at all, but perfectly orchestrated responses to your inner states. But here's what they don't want you to know about these divine appointments. You have been conditioned, my friend, to believe in a dead universe, a universe where things simply happen to you, rather than a universe that is constantly responding from you. The materialist worldview, this poverty of imagination, would have you believe that consciousness is merely a byproduct of matter, that your thoughts are powerless, that synchronicities are mere statistical flukes. But I tell you tonight, consciousness is the only reality, and what we call the physical world is its shadow. From the moment you drew your first breath, a systematic campaign was waged against your divine nature. The very institutions that claimed to educate you were, in fact, training you to ignore the miraculous. When as a child, you noticed the uncanny connections, the perfect timings, the way reality seemed to dance with your inner world, what were you told? It's just coincidence. Don't be so imaginative. That's not how the world works. Stop daydreaming and focus on reality. But the child in you knew better, didn't you? The child in you recognized that the world was alive, responsive, speaking in a language older than words. You could sense when someone was thinking about you. You knew when something was about to happen. You instinctively felt the connections between all things. Then came the schools, with their rigid structures and materialist dogma. They didn't teach you how to listen to your intuition, or recognize the signs that reality was constantly sending you. Instead, they taught you to memorize facts, follow rules, and obey external authority. They trained you to trust only what could be measured, weighed, and categorized. Creativity was systematically pushed aside in favor of logical reasoning. Imagination was dismissed as childish fantasy. Abstract thinking was discouraged, unless it served the machine of production and consumption. If you couldn't see it, touch it, or prove it in a laboratory, it wasn't real. But here's the truth they didn't want you to discover. The greatest minds in history, Carl Jung, Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, all recognized that reality is far more mysterious and responsive than the materialist worldview suggests. They understood that synchronicities and meaningful patterns were not anomalies to be dismissed, but clues to the deeper nature of existence itself. Now wait until you hear what these great minds discovered about the hidden intelligence governing reality. Carl Jung, that brilliant explorer of the psyche, coined the term synchronicity after witnessing countless examples of events aligning in ways that defied logical explanation. He recognized these meaningful coincidences as expressions of what he called the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of shared human experience that connects all minds. But Carl Jung was rediscovering what the ancients had always known. The mystics of old understood that individual consciousness is not separate from universal consciousness. They knew that what we call the outer world is actually the projection of inner states, and that by changing our inner nature, we could transform our entire experience of reality. Tesla, that master of energy and frequency, spoke of the universe as a vast field of vibration. He understood that everything, including thoughts and emotions, carries a specific frequency, and that by attuning ourselves to certain frequencies, we could influence the very fabric of reality. Einstein, despite his association with materialist science, recognized that the observer plays a fundamental role in determining reality. His famous statement that God does not play dice with the universe was not a denial of quantum mechanics, but an affirmation that there is an underlying intelligence and order to existence. These great minds understood what the mystery schools had taught for millennia, that consciousness is not a passive observer of reality, but the active creator of it. And there's one crucial element that determines whether you experience these miracles daily or remain blind to them. Modern quantum physics has stumbled upon something that mystics have known for thousands of years. Reality is not fixed and independent, but fluid and responsive to consciousness. The famous double-slit experiment revealed that the mere act of observation changes the behavior of particles at the most fundamental level of reality. What does this mean for you? It means that reality is not what happens to you. It is what happens through you. Your consciousness is not separate from the universe. It is the universe experiencing itself subjectively. When you truly understand this, synchronicities become not mysterious coincidences, but natural expressions of consciousness, recognizing itself in the mirror of experience. But here's where most people miss the profound implications. If consciousness creates reality, then your thoughts, beliefs, and especially your feelings are not just personal experiences. They are creative forces, shaping your world moment by moment. This is why some people seem to live charmed lives, where opportunities appear effortlessly and perfect timing is commonplace. It's not luck, it's alignment. They have learned, either consciously or unconsciously, to vibrate at frequencies that attract synchronicities. Everything in the universe, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy, vibrates at specific frequencies. Your thoughts and emotions are no exception. Each thought carries a vibration, each emotion a frequency, and these frequencies act like radio signals, attracting experiences that match their vibrational signature. When you consistently think thoughts of fear, lack, and limitation, you attune yourself to the frequency of struggle and discord. Your subconscious mind, which is connected to the infinite intelligence that governs all things, begins to attract circumstances that match these frequencies. But when you elevate your consciousness, when you think thoughts of love, abundance, and possibility, you align yourself with higher frequencies. You become a magnet for synchronicities, opportunities, and what others call lucky breaks. This is not wishful thinking, my friend. This is the fundamental law by which reality operates. The universe is not a random collection of unrelated events. It is an interconnected web of consciousness, responding to your inner states with mathematical precision. Now I'll reveal the exact mechanism by which your thoughts become your reality. Your subconscious mind is the bridge between the inner world of consciousness and the outer world of experience. While your conscious mind is focused on daily tasks and immediate concerns, your subconscious is constantly processing deeper patterns, making connections that your rational mind cannot see. This deeper intelligence within you never sleeps. It is always working, always arranging circumstances, always drawing to you people and situations that match your dominant mental and emotional patterns. When you set an intention, whether consciously or unconsciously, your subconscious begins the process of materialization. It starts by heightening your awareness to opportunities that were always there but previously invisible to you. This is why when you decide to buy a certain car, you suddenly see that model everywhere. But the subconscious goes far beyond simple pattern recognition. It operates through what Jung called the collective unconscious, that vast network of shared consciousness that connects all minds. Through this connection, your subconscious can influence the subconscious minds of others, creating what appear to be miraculous coincidences. The person who calls you just as you're thinking of them is not experiencing a random event. Their subconscious has picked up the signal from your subconscious. The stranger who appears with exactly the information you need is being guided by the same intelligence that is guiding you. This is why people who strongly believe in synchronicities experience them more frequently. Their belief creates a state of expectancy that programs their subconscious to actively participate in the orchestration of meaningful coincidences. There is a network in your brainstem called the reticular activating system, or RAS, that filters the millions of pieces of information bombarding your senses every moment. This system determines what reaches your conscious awareness and what remains in the background. It is like a search engine for your brain. Whatever you focus on, whatever you believe is important, becomes a priority for this system. If you're looking for red cars, you'll see red cars everywhere. If you're focused on problems, you'll notice problems. If you're attuned to synchronicities, they will appear with increasing frequency. But here's the profound truth. This system doesn't just filter existing information. It actually influences what information becomes available to filter. When you program your RAS to look for signs, opportunities, and meaningful connections, you are literally reprogramming reality to present you with more of these experiences. This is why the people who live in the flow of synchronicity seem to inhabit a different world than those who see only randomness and struggle. They have programmed their consciousness to recognize and attract the hidden order that underlies all apparent chaos. There's one ancient practice that can immediately amplify your ability to receive these divine messages. Now I come to the heart of all creation. The secret that I have been sharing for decades. The power of assumption. Assumption is not hope. It is not wishing. It is not positive thinking. Assumption is the act of accepting as true that which your senses deny and your reason rejects. It is feeling the reality of your desire fulfilled before there is any evidence in the outer world. When you assume something to be true, when you live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not trying to make something happen. You are acknowledging that it has already happened in the only realm that matters, consciousness. Every assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. This is not metaphor. This is the fundamental law of creation. Your assumptions are the seeds from which your experiences grow. To understand how synchronicities work, you must understand the three states of consciousness from which you can operate. Number 1, the victim state. In this state, you believe that life happens to you. You see yourself as subject to forces beyond your control. Synchronicities, if they appear at all, are dismissed as mere coincidence. You live in reaction to circumstances rather than in response to your inner vision. Number 2, the magical state. In this state, you recognize that synchronicities exist, but you still see them as coming from outside yourself. You wait for signs, you look for omens, you try to interpret what the universe is telling you. While this is a step up from the victim state, you are still not operating from your full power. Number 3, the creator state. In this state, you recognize that you are the operant power. You understand that synchronicities are not messages from some external universe. They are confirmations from your own divine nature. You don't wait for signs. You create them. You don't look for omens. You become them. Only when you operate from the creator state do synchronicities become a constant companion, rather than occasional visitors. And here's the specific technique that allows you to consciously enter the creator state. The ancients knew something that modern man has forgotten: how to have a conscious conversation with reality. They called it prayer, but their prayer was not begging, it was claiming; not hoping, it was knowing; not asking, it was thanking. Here is their method, refined through my own experience, and proven through countless applications. Step 1. Enter the silence. Find that quiet space within yourself, where the noise of the outer world cannot penetrate. This is not merely physical silence. It is the silence of assumption, where you cease to argue with life, and simply accept what you desire as already accomplished. Step 2. Construct the scene. Create in your imagination a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Make it simple, natural, and easily repeatable. If you desire abundance, Perhaps you see yourself comfortably paying bills without concern. If you desire love, perhaps you feel a loving hand in yours. Step 3. Enter the scene. Don't observe the scene. Enter it. Feel yourself in the situation. Use all your senses. Make it as real as any experience you've ever had. The subconscious cannot distinguish between an imagined experience and a physical one. If the imagined experience is felt as real. Step 4. Feel the reality. This is the crucial step. You must feel the reality of what you are imagining. Not the feeling of wanting it, but the feeling of having it. Dwell in that feeling until it becomes natural, until it feels more real than your current circumstances. Step 5. Release with gratitude. Having felt the reality of your fulfilled desire, release it with complete confidence. Don't hold on to it with mental effort. Let it go, knowing that your subconscious will now move heaven and earth to make it manifest. When you practice this method consistently, synchronicities don't just increase, they become the very fabric of your existence. One of the most common ways that consciousness communicates with itself is through numbers. You begin to notice 1111 appearing on clocks. You see 222 on license plates. 333 shows up on receipts and billboards. These are not random occurrences. In the mystical traditions, numbers are considered the language of creation itself. Each number carries a specific vibration, a particular message from your deeper self. When you see 111, it often signifies new beginnings, the opening of energy portals in your life. 222 speaks of balance and partnership, divine timing, bringing things into alignment. 333 represents the trinity of mind, body, and spirit, working in harmony. But here's the deeper truth. The specific meaning of these numbers is less important than your recognition of them. Each time you notice a meaningful number sequence, you are acknowledging the intelligence that governs your life. You are saying yes to the conversation between your conscious and subconscious minds. The more you acknowledge these numerical signs, the more frequently they appear. Not because you're looking for them, but because your recognition of them strengthens the connection between the seen and unseen aspects of your being. But there's an even more powerful form of synchronicity that most people never learn to recognize. Beyond numbers, consciousness speaks through symbols, songs, animals, and seemingly random encounters. That song that plays just as you're thinking of someone special. The book that falls open to exactly the page you need to read. The stranger who says precisely the words you need to hear. These symbolic synchronicities are the universe's way of confirming that you are on the right path, that your inner and outer worlds are aligning. They are love letters from your own divine nature, written in the language of experience. I remember a student who was struggling with a difficult decision about her career. She had been assuming success in a new field, but was wavering in her conviction. One morning, she found a white feather on her doorstep, something she had never seen before in 20 years of living in her apartment. That evening, a friend called unexpectedly and mentioned seeing a white bird, which reminded her of an old saying about white feathers being signs of encouragement from guardian angels. Later that same day, she opened a magazine to a random page and saw an article titled, "Taking Flight, When to Trust Your Wings." These were not three separate coincidences. They were one coordinated message from her subconscious mind, confirming that her assumption of success was being supported by infinite intelligence. The key to working with symbolic synchronicities is to trust your first instinct about their meaning. Your intuition will always recognize the personal significance of these signs before your rational mind can analyze them. Perhaps the most powerful synchronicities involve other people. You meet someone who has exactly the knowledge you need. You encounter a stranger who shares your specific interest or challenge. You run into an old friend just when you need their particular skill or perspective. These human synchronicities reveal something profound about the nature of reality. We are all connected at levels deeper than our physical senses can perceive. When you need something, the universe doesn't always deliver it as an object or opportunity. Sometimes it delivers it as a person. But here's what most people miss. These people are not randomly appearing in your life. They are being drawn to you by the same intelligence that is guiding you toward them. Your assumption, your inner conviction, your emotional state is sending out signals that attract exactly the people you need. I have witnessed this countless times in my own life and in the lives of my students. The person who needs healing attracts the healer. The one who needs teaching attracts the teacher. The one who needs love attracts the lover. This is not luck or chance. This is consciousness orchestrating reality through the medium of human relationships. Now I'll share the one mistake that causes most people to miss these miraculous encounters. The fatal error that most people make is this. They wait for the sign before they believe, instead of believing and then receiving the sign as confirmation. Let me tell you plainly, faith is not believing despite the lack of evidence. Faith is knowing that your assumption, once felt as real, must produce evidence. When you truly live from the end, when you inhabit the state of consciousness of your wish fulfilled, the signs don't come to convince you. They come to celebrate with you. Most people approach synchronicities backwards. They think, if I see a sign, then I'll believe my desire is coming true. But the correct approach is, because I believe my desire is already fulfilled, I recognize these signs as confirmations of that truth. This reversal of understanding is the difference between those who experience occasional synchronicities and those who live in constant communion with the creative forces of the universe. Once you begin to live consciously, once you start assuming your desires fulfilled and recognizing synchronicities as confirmations, something remarkable happens. Everything accelerates. Synchronicities don't just increase in frequency, they increase in precision and power. The signs become unmistakable. The timing becomes perfect. The connections become profound. This acceleration occurs because you are aligning yourself with the natural flow of creation. Instead of swimming against the current of your own divine nature, you are moving with it. I have seen students go from experiencing one meaningful synchronicity per month to experiencing multiple synchronicities per day, not because they were trying harder, but because they were believing deeper. The universe rewards movement. When you act on your assumptions, when you trust your inner guidance, when you follow the synchronicities as they appear, reality responds by providing more guidance, more signs, more confirmations. To live in the flow of synchronicity is to live in what I call the lovely state of knowing. You know that you are loved, guided, and protected by your own wonderful human imagination, which is God Himself individualized as you. In this state, you don't worry about how your desires will be fulfilled. You know they are already fulfilled in consciousness, and you trust that the outer world will conform to this inner reality. You don't search for signs. You recognize them. You don't force synchronicities. You allow them. You don't doubt your power. You assume it. People who live in this flow often describe their lives as magical, charmed, blessed. They seem to be in the right place at the right time with remarkable consistency. Opportunities appear effortlessly. Problems resolve themselves. Connections happen naturally. But this is not special treatment from some external universe. This is the natural result of consciousness operating from its full power. Here is perhaps the deepest truth about synchronicities. They are not coming from outside you. They are reflections of your own consciousness, recognizing itself in the mirror of experience. When you see 11:11 on a clock, it is not the universe trying to get your attention. It is you, as God, reminding yourself of your divine nature. When you hear the perfect song, at the perfect moment, it is not some external intelligence speaking to you. It is your own wonderful human imagination, orchestrating your experience from within. When you meet exactly the right person at exactly the right time, it is not chance. It is consciousness drawing itself to itself through the medium of human encounter. Understanding this principle transforms your entire relationship with synchronicity. You stop looking for messages from outside and start recognizing the constant conversation you are having with yourself through the language of experience. There's one advanced technique that can instantly multiply your synchronicity experiences, and I have shared with very few students, but which I feel moved to share with you tonight. The practice of thanking reality for synchronicities before they appear. Instead of waiting for a sign and then expressing gratitude, You express gratitude for the signs that are already on their way to you. You thank your divine imagination for the perfect timing, the meaningful coincidences, the miraculous encounters that you know are being arranged even now. This practice does something extraordinary to your consciousness. It moves you from hoping for synchronicities to expecting them. And expectation is a powerful creative force. When you expect synchronicities, you look for them. When you look for them, you find them. When you find them, you believe in them more deeply. When you believe more deeply, you attract more powerful ones. This creates an upward spiral of increasing communion with the creative forces of reality. I promise you this. Begin to live consciously. Begin to assume your desires fulfilled. Begin to treat every synchronicity as a love letter from your own divine nature, and you will discover that miracles are not violations of natural law. They are the natural response of reality to awakened consciousness. The universe is not random. It is responsive. It is not indifferent. It is intimate. It knows your name, your desires, your dreams, because it is you, appearing as your world. But knowledge without application is powerless. You must practice these principles. You must assume the state of consciousness you desire to express. You must persist in your assumptions until they harden into fact. Start tonight. Before you sleep, assume something wonderful about tomorrow. Feel it as already accomplished. Live in that feeling until it becomes natural. Then watch. Watch as reality begins to speak to you more clearly. Watch as synchronicities increase in frequency and power. Watch as your life transforms from random chance to conscious creation. Every synchronicity is God's way of remaining anonymous, while personally delivering your good to you. Every meaningful coincidence is consciousness confirming its own creative power through you. You are not separate from the creative power of the universe. You are the creative power, individualized and made personal. The next time you see 11:11 on the clock, know that it is not the universe trying to get your attention. It is you as God, reminding yourself of your divine nature. The next time the perfect song plays at the perfect moment, don't dismiss it as coincidence. Recognize it as your own wonderful human imagination, speaking to you through the language of experience itself. The next time you meet exactly the right person at exactly the right time, understand that this is not luck. This is consciousness orchestrating reality through the power of assumption. You have been having a conversation with God all along. You just didn't recognize the voice because it was your own. Tonight, I have reminded you of your true nature. I have shown you the language that reality speaks. I have revealed the mechanism by which consciousness creates experience. Now the question is, what will you assume? What will you claim as already accomplished? What reality will you create through the power of your own divine imagination? The universe is waiting for your answer. Not in words, but in assumption. Not in hope, but in feeling. Not tomorrow, but now. Wake up, my friend. The universe has been calling your name. And now you know that the voice you've been hearing is your own. If this message has awakened something within you, let me know in the comments by simply writing, I am. Because in those two words lies the secret of all synchronicity, all creation, all power. I am is the name of God. And it is your name too.
Everything that you desire is already yours. The wealth, the love, the joy, it is not something you must chase. It is something you must allow. But if you do not see it, if you do not feel it, you are blocking it. You are turning away from the infinite supply that is already present, already waiting for you to claim it. You do not need to beg, struggle, or toil. You only need to assume the feeling of already having it. Look at your life and notice where you are resisting abundance. It is not the world that withholds from you, but your own mind, your own state of being. Every time you say, I can't afford this, or I am struggling, or it never works out for me, you are shutting the door on the very thing you wish to receive. You are creating the lack, not because it is real, but because you have accepted it as real. The secret is simple. You do not receive what you want, you receive what you are. You must embody the wealth you seek. You must walk in the confidence of one who already possesses it. The feeling of lack cannot produce abundance. The feeling of limitation cannot create freedom. You must dare to believe in the unseen reality more than the visible circumstances. Do not ask when or how it will come. That is the trap of the logical mind, the part of you that insists on struggle and delay. The moment you truly accept that it is done, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to reflect your new assumption. You have been waiting for the world to change before you believe, but it is your belief that changes the world. Every day, you are given the choice to persist in the old or to step into the new. Your wealth, your success, your joy, they are already here. Do you have the courage to claim them? Abundance is already yours. It is not something you need to earn, chase, or struggle for. It is already present, already within you, waiting for you to recognize it. The very idea that you must fight for abundance is the illusion that keeps it at a distance. The moment you stop seeing it as something outside of you, something separate from your being, is the moment you begin to experience it effortlessly in your reality. Look around you. Everything you see, every experience you have is the result of what you have accepted as true within yourself. If your world appears limited, if your circumstances seem to deny abundance, it is only because you have believed in lack more than you have believed in the infinite supply available to you. The world is merely a reflection of your inner state. The moment you shift your awareness, the outer world must conform. It has no choice. There is no external force holding abundance from you. No economy, no system, no person has the power to limit what is already yours. The only thing that blocks it is your own resistance, your own beliefs that tell you it is not possible, not available, or not meant for you. But abundance is not selective. It does not play favorites. It is as natural and ever-present as the air you breathe. It is only a question of whether you are open to receiving it. Think of a river flowing endlessly, supplying fresh water to all who draw from it. Some people stand at the banks with buckets, collecting all they need, while others refuse to dip their hands in, convinced that there is not enough or that they are unworthy of it. The river does not decide who may drink. It flows without judgment. Abundance operates the same way. It is not about deserving or proving yourself. It is about recognizing that the supply is infinite and available to you at all times. The key to unlocking this truth is your feeling. If you feel abundant, you will see abundance everywhere. If you feel lack, you will find confirmation of it in every corner of your life. The world simply mirrors back to you the state you hold within. You attract what you want, you attract what you are. If you walk in the assumption of wealth, the world will shape itself to reflect that wealth. If you walk in the assumption of struggle, circumstances will arise to reinforce that struggle. Many people believe abundance is something they must achieve through effort and hard work. They have been conditioned to think that success is the result of toil, sacrifice, and long hours. But if that were true, every hard-working person would be rich. Every person who labored endlessly would be overflowing with prosperity. Yet we see time and time again that some of the wealthiest individuals did not achieve abundance through struggle, but through a shift in awareness. They saw themselves as wealthy before their external world reflected it. They embodied the state of abundance within, and the world had no choice but to follow. You do not need to force abundance to come to you. You only need to stop blocking it. You do this by letting go of the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that keep it away. Every time you say, "I can't afford this, money is hard to come by," or "I never have enough," you are closing the door on abundance. You are declaring to the universe that lack is what you believe in, and so lack is what you will experience. But the moment you shift your inner dialogue, the moment you begin to say, wealth flows to me easily, I always have more than enough, and everything I desire is already mine, you are opening the floodgates. Your words, your emotions, and your assumptions are the key to unlocking all that you seek. If you could feel the reality of abundance now, if you could walk as if it were already yours, you would see it materialize in ways you never imagined. But most people hold themselves apart from abundance because they believe they must first see proof before they can believe it. They wait for circumstances to change before changing their mindset. This is the great misunderstanding. The change in belief must come first. The external world is simply the echo. Imagine a person who stands in front of a mirror, waiting for their reflection to smile before they smile. It would never happen. The reflection only moves when they move. In the same way, the world will only show you abundance when you assume the state of being abundant. You must smile first, feel the reality first, and then the mirror of life will reflect it back to you. This is why those who complain about money continue to experience financial struggles. They are reinforcing the state of lack through their thoughts, emotions, and words. Even when they receive money, their dominant belief in scarcity ensures that it slips through their fingers. They never truly allow themselves to feel abundant, and so the world cannot show them abundance. But when you truly accept that abundance is already yours, when you no longer feel the need to chase it, fight for it, or doubt its presence, it begins to flow effortlessly into your life. You will notice unexpected sources of wealth appearing. Opportunities will arise where none seemed to exist before. People and circumstances will align in ways that seem almost miraculous. This is not luck or coincidence. It is simply the outer world reflecting your inner shift. You do not have to know how it will come. The logical mind always wants to figure out the how, but that is not your concern. Your only task is to assume the feeling of already having it. The means will reveal themselves at the right time. The moment you decide that you are wealthy, that you are abundant, the universe begins moving pieces into place to confirm that decision. Abundance is not about numbers in a bank account. It is not about possessions or status. It is a state of being, a deep inner knowing that you are always provided for, always supported, always overflowing with more than enough. When you cultivate this state, money, success, and opportunities become natural byproducts. They are drawn to you effortlessly because you are no longer resisting them. There is nothing to wait for. The moment you claim abundance as your reality, it becomes so. The moment you stop seeing it as something distant, something to be earned or proven, it appears. You have always had the power to allow it. The question is, will you? Your thoughts create your reality. Every experience, every event, every circumstance in your life is a direct reflection of what you have accepted as true in your mind. There is no external force dictating your reality. There is no outside power shaping your destiny. The only thing creating your life moment by moment is your own consciousness. If you believe in lack, you will experience lack. If you believe in abundance, you will experience abundance. The world has no choice but to mirror back to you the assumptions you hold. Most people do not realize that they are the cause of everything they experience. They look at their circumstances and assume that life is happening to them, that they are victims of chance, fate, or external conditions. But nothing in your world happens without your permission. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you are always shaping your life through your dominant thoughts and beliefs. Even the things you do not want, the struggles, the disappointments, the setbacks, all exist because at some level you have entertained thoughts that align with them. This is not about blame. It is about power. It is about recognizing that you are not at the mercy of anything outside of you. If your world is not the way you want it to be, you do not need to fight against circumstances, change other people, or struggle against conditions. You only need to change your thoughts. The outer world is simply a reflection of the inner world. Consider a person who constantly worries about money. They wake up every day thinking about their bills, their debts, and how hard it is to make ends meet. They talk about their financial struggles to anyone who would listen. They reinforce their belief in scarcity with every thought, every word, and every emotion. And what happens? Their reality confirms it. Unexpected expenses arise. Money seems to slip through their fingers. No matter how much they try to fix their situation, they remain stuck in the same cycle. This is not because the world is cruel or unfair. It is because they are knowingly holding themselves in a state of lack through their thoughts. Now imagine another person who, despite not yet having great wealth, believes deeply that they are financially abundant. They do not allow temporary appearances to shake their faith. They speak as if they are prosperous. They think as if money flows to them effortlessly. They feel the reality of financial freedom even before it appears. And what happens? Opportunities begin to arise. Unexpected income comes their way. The right people, the right circumstances, and the right ideas seem to align perfectly. They did not have to struggle for it. They simply assumed the state of abundance, and the world conformed. This is not wishful thinking. It is a fundamental law of reality. You do not receive what you want. You receive what you are. Your subconscious mind does not respond to empty wishes or fleeting desires. It responds to what you consistently believe to be true. If you wake up every day feeling like a failure, the world will confirm that instead. There is no randomness in this process. The law is precise and unfailing. The only reason people struggle is that they do not realize they are always creating, whether they intend to or not. If you allow negative thoughts to dominate your mind, you will experience a negative reality. If you allow positive, abundant thoughts to fill your consciousness, your world must reflect that. It is as simple as planting seeds. Whatever you plant in your mind will eventually grow into your experience. Look at the thoughts you have been entertaining. Are they thoughts of fear, doubt, and limitation? If so, your life will mirror those feelings. Are they thoughts of confidence, joy, and abundance? Then your reality will reflect those states instead. The universe is not punishing or rewarding you. It is simply responding to the energy you put out. The mistake most people make is believing that they need to see proof before they can change their beliefs. They say, "I will believe in abundance when I see more money in my account," or "I will feel loved when the right relationship appears." But they have it backward. The belief must come first. The feeling must come first. Only then will the external world shift. Think of it like a thermostat. If you set a thermostat to a certain temperature, the environment adjusts to match it. If the temperature drops below the setting, the heater turns on. If it rises above the setting, the air conditioning kicks in. Your dominant thoughts and beliefs work the same way. They act as the set point for your reality. If you have a mental set point of struggle, your subconscious will constantly adjust your reality to match that struggle. If you set your mind to abundance, your subconscious will bring circumstances that reflect that abundance. You may wonder, but how do I change my beliefs if my current reality seems so real? The answer is simple. Stop reacting to appearances. Do not let what you see dictate what you believe. Instead, let what you believe dictate what you see. You must persist in your new assumption even when there is no physical evidence of it yet. Think of a gardener who plants seeds. They do not dig up the soil every day to check if the seed is growing. They trust the process. They water it. they nurture it, and they know that in time it will sprout. Your thoughts work the same way. The moment you plant a new belief, the outer world begins shifting to reflect it. But if you constantly doubt, if you constantly check and question, you disrupt the process. You must have the patience and faith to let it unfold. This is why imagination is so powerful. If you can close your eyes and truly feel the reality of what you desire, you are imprinting that state onto your subconscious mind. And once the subconscious accepts it, the outer world must rearrange itself to match. The key is to assume it is done, to live in the end result as if it were already true. Do not wait for physical evidence. Create the evidence within first. Most people wait for circumstances to change before they allow themselves to feel happy, successful, or abundant. But those who understand this principle do the opposite. They feel happy first, they feel successful first, they feel abundant first. And then, as if by magic, the world transforms to match their inner state. You have always had this power. It has been working in your life since the moment you were born. The question is, are you using it consciously or unconsciously? Are you allowing random thoughts and external influences to shape your reality? Or are you deliberately choosing the thoughts that align with the life you want? It is not difficult to shift your thinking. It only requires awareness and consistency. If you catch yourself dwelling on lack, fear, or limitation, stop immediately and replace those thoughts with something better. It does not matter if your current reality seems to contradict it. Persist in the new thought, and reality will shift in time. You do not need to struggle against old conditions. You do not need to fight or resist anything. Simply create a new state within yourself, and everything else will follow. The world has no choice but to reflect back to you what you hold in your mind. If you truly live by this, there is nothing you cannot create. The only limits you experience in life are the ones you have accepted in your mind. Every obstacle, every delay, every circumstance that seems to be holding you back is not an external force against you. It is the reflection of an invisible boundary you have placed upon yourself. These limitations are not real in any absolute sense. They only exist because you believe in them. The moment you drop the belief, the limitation disappears. Think of the ways you have convinced yourself that something is not possible. Perhaps you have said, "I can't achieve that because I don't have the right skills," or "I can't have wealth because I was born into a struggling family," or "I can't find love because of my past experiences." These are not truths. These are merely assumptions you have accepted as fact. And because you have accepted them, your world has reflected them back to you. Reality is not fixed. It is fluid, flexible, and entirely shaped by consciousness. There is no law outside of you that says you must struggle. There is no force in the universe that determines how much success, love, or abundance you can experience. The only thing that governs your life is your own mind. If you accept limitations, they will appear real to you. If you reject them, they will dissolve. Consider a person who believes they are not good enough to succeed in their career. They may want a promotion, a better position, or greater recognition. But deep down, they do not feel worthy of it. And so, they unconsciously sabotage their chances. They hesitate to take action. They speak with uncertainty. They downplay their abilities. Even if an opportunity presents itself, they dismiss it as not meant for them. And what happens? Their world confirms their belief. They remain stuck in the same position, watching others rise while they stay behind. Not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they have placed a mental barrier between themselves and success. Now imagine another person in the same situation, but they believe in their worthiness. They may not have all the experience. They may not have all the credentials, but they assume they belong at the top. They walk into every room with confidence. They speak as if they already possess the qualities they desire. They persist, they take action, they embrace opportunities without hesitation. And reality bends to match their assumption. They rise not because of luck or privilege, but because they refuse to accept any limitation on what was possible for them. This is true in every area of life. If you believe that love is difficult, love will feel distant. If you believe that money is scarce, money will always slip through your fingers. If you believe that success is reserved for others but not for you, then no matter how hard you work, you will find yourself struggling, not because life is against you, but because you have unknowingly placed an invisible wall between yourself and the life you desire. The key to breaking through these limits is not struggle. It is not about forcing or fighting your way to success. It is about changing the assumption that created the limitation in the first place. If you believe in struggle, struggle will persist. If you believe in ease, things will begin to unfold effortlessly. There is nothing external keeping you from your desires. The barriers you see are projections of the mind. If you believe that you cannot have something, your mind will generate reasons to justify that belief. You will notice obstacles, difficulties, and setbacks that seem to confirm your doubts. But the moment you shift your assumption, everything changes. The path that seemed impossible suddenly becomes clear. The resources you thought you lacked begin to appear. The people and opportunities that seemed out of reach come into your life effortlessly. This is not coincidence. This is the natural law of consciousness. Your assumptions dictate what you experience. The moment you decide that something is possible for you, reality rearranges itself to reflect that decision. Think of a time in your life when you overcame a limitation simply because you changed your mind. Perhaps there was something you once believed was out of reach, but then one day, something shifted. Maybe you gained new information. Maybe someone encouraged you. Maybe you simply got tired of accepting less than you deserved. And the moment your belief changed, things started moving. What once felt impossible became attainable. This power is always available to you. You do not need external validation to break free from limitations. You do not need anyone else to tell you what is possible. The only thing required is a shift in your consciousness. The moment you assume a new state, everything else follows. Most people hold themselves back not because they lack ability, but because they fear stepping into a greater version of themselves. They have become comfortable in their limitations. They have accepted a life that is smaller than what they are truly capable of. But comfort is not the same as fulfillment. Staying within limitations may feel safe, but it also keeps you from the expansion, joy, and abundance that life has to offer. The moment you decide to stop accepting limitations, your world will begin to change. But you must truly believe it. You cannot say, "I am limitless," while secretly holding on to doubts. You cannot affirm abundance while secretly expecting struggle. Your subconscious mind knows what you truly believe, and it will always reflect that belief outwardly. If you want to experience a reality without limits, you must first become limitless in your mind. You must allow yourself to imagine and feel what it would be like to live without the restrictions you have placed upon yourself. Close your eyes and see yourself thriving, succeeding, expanding. Feel what it would be like to move through life with absolute confidence and certainty. And as you do this, notice how your energy shifts. Notice how the barriers you once saw begin to feel insignificant. There is no reason to wait. There is nothing you need to fix or improve before you step into your highest potential. The only thing required is a decision to no longer accept limitation as part of your reality. And the moment you make that decision, the world will reflect it back to you. Every desire you hold is already fulfilled in the invisible realm of imagination. What you seek is not something you must chase or struggle for. It already exists. The only reason it remains unseen in your physical world is that you have not fully accepted it as real. The moment you accept it, the moment you embody the feeling of already having it, reality must conform to your assumption. Imagination is not fantasy. It is the creative power that shapes your reality. There is no outside force controlling your life. There is no destiny written for you that you cannot change. The only thing shaping your experience is your own imagination. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you take full responsibility for your reality. The sooner you will see the evidence of your power. Most people fear taking responsibility for their own creation. They would rather blame circumstances, blame others, blame fate. But to do so is to give away your power. The moment you accept that you are the creator of your own experience, you become free. You no longer wait for things to change. You change them yourself. You no longer seek answers outside of you. You look within. All things are possible to the one who believes. This is not just a saying, not just a hopeful idea. It is the law of reality. The only thing determining what is possible for you is what you believe to be possible. The moment you expand your assumptions, the moment you accept a new reality in your mind, the world will adjust itself accordingly. There is no limitation except the ones you place upon yourself. There is no external force holding you back. There is only your own acceptance or rejection of what is possible. The world is not separate from you. It is you reflected back at you. The sooner you understand this, the sooner you will stop looking outside of yourself for answers, for solutions, for change. Everything you desire is already yours. It is already created. The only thing keeping it from appearing in your life is your own doubt, your own hesitation, your own belief in limitation. The moment you let go of these doubts and accept the reality of your wish fulfilled, everything changes. You do not need anyone else to tell you that you can have what you desire. You do not need anyone to approve of your dreams. The only approval you need is your own. The only permission you need is the one you give yourself. Your imagination is the only reality. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you will see the proof. The world is waiting to conform to your assumptions. The only question is, what will you assume to be true?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin tonight, I want you to look around this room. Each one of you came here in a particular state of consciousness. Some of you arrived feeling hopeful, others perhaps skeptical. Some are eager, others cautious. And each of these states, every single one, is about to determine what you take away from our time together this evening. You see, I didn't choose tonight's topic randomly. I chose it because it contains the master key to everything you've ever desired. Tonight I want to share with you one of the most profound truths you will ever encounter. A truth that, when understood and applied, will revolutionize your entire existence. I want to speak to you about states of consciousness. Now let me begin with this fundamental principle. And I want you to write this down. You are in a state. You always will be in a state. The moment you know what state you are in, you can get out of it. A lady came to me just last week. Let me tell you her story because it illustrates perfectly what I'm about to share with you. She said, "Neville, I've been trying to manifest a loving relationship for 3 years. I've done everything, visualized, affirmed, prayed, but nothing works. What am I doing wrong?" I said to her, "My dear, you're not doing anything wrong. You're simply living in the wrong state." You see, she was living in the state of wanting love, the state of lacking love, the state of trying to get love. And the universe, being the faithful mirror that it is, kept reflecting back to her exactly that: more wanting, more lacking, more trying. Listen carefully to what I'm telling you. At every moment of your existence, right now, as you sit here listening to these words, you are in a state of consciousness. You are occupying a particular state, a specific way of being, feeling, and perceiving. This state, my friends, determines everything you experience, how you feel, what you think, what you expect, and ultimately, mark this well, what manifests in your world. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the tension, even though no one said a word? Have you ever met someone and instantly felt drawn to them? Or perhaps repelled, without knowing why? That, my friends, is consciousness recognizing consciousness. That is state recognizing state. Most people, I tell you, live their entire lives without ever recognizing that they are constantly moving between different states of consciousness. They are like actors changing costumes between scenes of a play they don't even realize they're performing in. But you tonight, you are going to understand something that will set you free forever. Understanding states of consciousness is perhaps the most practical and transformative knowledge you can acquire. It is the difference, I tell you, between being tossed around by life's circumstances and becoming the conscious director of your own experience. When you truly grasp what it means to be in a state, and more importantly, how to deliberately choose and maintain the states that serve you, you gain access to a level of personal power that most people never even know exists. I remember a gentleman who attended my lectures years ago. He was a struggling artist, living in a tiny apartment, barely able to pay his rent. But one evening, something clicked. He understood what I was teaching about states. Instead of continuing to live in the state of the struggling artist, he began to live in the state of the successful, celebrated artist. Within 6 months, a gallery owner discovered his work. He had his first solo show, and collectors began buying his paintings. Did his circumstances change his state? No. His state changed his circumstances. As within, so without. This is the law. Now think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever noticed, and I know you have, how some days you feel confident, capable, and optimistic, and everything seems to flow effortlessly? The coffee tastes better. People smile at you, doors literally open for you, opportunities appear, problems resolve themselves with ease. Then there are other days when you feel uncertain, worried, or frustrated, and it seems like everything goes wrong. Traffic is heavier. People are more difficult. Even your favorite restaurant seems to have lost its charm. Obstacles appear everywhere you turn. What happened? Did the external circumstances change first? Did the world suddenly decide to treat you differently? No, you did. You shifted from one state of consciousness to another, and your world shifted to match. This is not coincidence, my friends. This is not random. This is the fundamental law of consciousness in action. The very law that Moses spoke of when he declared, "I am that I am." Think about this deeply. When Moses stood before the burning bush and asked God for his name, the answer came back, "I am that I am, not I was or I will be, but I am." Present tense. Eternal now. Whatever you place after I am, you become I am broke. And so you are. I am sick. And so you are. I am blessed. And so you are. I am is the creative power of the universe, and it's operating through you right now. Your state of consciousness is the broadcaster, and your external world is the receiver. Whatever frequency you're broadcasting, whatever state you're in, the world around you must tune in to match that frequency. It has no choice in the matter. As I have told you many times before, consciousness is the only reality, and everything else is its shadow. But what exactly is a state of consciousness? Let me be very clear about this, because this understanding will change your life. It is much more than just a mood or a temporary feeling. A state is a complete configuration of your inner being. Your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, expectations, and self-concept all aligned in a particular pattern. When you're in the state of being loved, for example, you don't just feel good. You think the thoughts that a beloved person thinks. You carry yourself the way a beloved person carries themselves. You expect the treatment that a beloved person expects, and you assume that love is natural and normal in your life. You don't question whether you're lovable. That thought doesn't even occur to you. Love flows to you as naturally as water flows downhill. You see, states are like different radio stations, each broadcasting on its own frequency. Right now, there are hundreds of radio signals passing through this very room. Jazz, classical, rock, news, talk shows, all broadcasting simultaneously. But you only hear the one you're tuned into. The same is true with consciousness. When you're tuned into the lack station, you hear lack everywhere. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough love, not enough opportunity. Every song on that station is about what's missing. When you're tuned into the abundance station, you hear abundance everywhere. Possibilities, resources, connections, solutions. Every song is about what's available, what's possible, what's flowing toward you. The remarkable thing is that both stations are broadcasting simultaneously. The abundance is there right now. The love is there right now. The opportunities are there right now. The only difference is which station you're tuned into. And you, my friends, you are the one holding the dial. Now here is where most people go astray. And I want you to listen to this very carefully. Most people believe that they feel a certain way because of what's happening in their life. They think their state of consciousness is the result of their circumstances. I'm worried because my business is struggling. I'm lonely because I don't have a partner. I'm frustrated because people don't understand me. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll feel confident when I lose weight. I'll be at peace when my problems are solved. But this is backwards thinking. This is the great illusion that keeps people trapped in cycles of limitation and struggle. The truth, I tell you, is exactly the opposite. Your circumstances are the result of your state of consciousness. Your business is struggling because you've been in the state of struggle. You don't have a partner because you've been in the state of loneliness. People don't understand you because you've been in the state of feeling misunderstood. Let me tell you about a woman who came to see me. She was desperate to find a husband. She was 35, had been dating for years, and every relationship ended in disappointment. She said, "Neville, what's wrong with me? Why can't I find love?" I said, "Tell me how you prepare for dates." She said, "Well, I spend hours getting ready, trying to look perfect, wondering if he'll like me, hoping I won't say something wrong, praying that this will finally be the one." Do you see the state she was living in? The state of desperate need, of not being enough, of hoping and praying and trying. And every man she met felt that energy and responded accordingly, either by running away or by treating her as someone who wasn't quite enough. I told her, "Tonight I want you to do something different. Before your next date, I want you to sit quietly and imagine you're already the beloved wife of a wonderful man. Feel how secure you feel in his love. Feel how cherished and adored you are. Feel how natural and easy love is in your life. Go on your date from that state." She did. And do you know what happened? She was relaxed, confident, playful. She wasn't trying to get anything. She was already full. The man felt completely different energy from her and responded completely differently. They were engaged within 6 months. This reversal of cause and effect is perhaps the most difficult concept for people to accept, because it challenges everything they've been taught about how life works. We've been conditioned, you see, to believe that the external world is solid, fixed, and independent of our inner experience. We've been taught that we must adapt our feelings to match our circumstances. We wait for conditions to change before we allow ourselves to feel different. But I tell you tonight, and I want you to really hear this, consciousness is the only reality, and all external circumstances are simply consciousness made manifest. Change your state of consciousness, and your circumstances must change to match. This is not theory. This is law, as absolute and reliable as the law of gravity. The beautiful thing about understanding states, and this should fill you with tremendous hope, is that it puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. No longer do you have to wait for circumstances to change in order to feel different. No longer do you have to be at the mercy of what other people do or don't do. No longer do you have to let external conditions dictate your inner experience. You can choose your state first and let your external world reorganize itself to match. Think about this for a moment. Right now, in this very moment, you could choose to be in the state of gratitude. You could choose to be in the state of love. You could choose to be in the state of abundance. You could choose to be in the state of perfect health. Not because your outer circumstances warrant it, but because you are the operant power. You are consciousness itself, temporarily forgetting its own power. But let me be very clear about something, because this is where many people stumble. Choosing a state is different from trying to feel something. When people first learn about states of consciousness, they often make the mistake of trying to force themselves into a different state through willpower or positive thinking. They grit their teeth and try to convince themselves they feel confident when they feel scared, or they try to paste a smile on their face when they feel sad. This approach rarely works because it's working from the surface instead of the depth. It's like trying to change the image in a mirror by working on the mirror instead of changing what's standing in front of it. The mirror has no choice but to reflect what's before it. Your outer world has no choice but to reflect your inner state. True state change happens at the level of assumption, at the level of what you take to be true about yourself and your world. When you're in the state of being wealthy, you don't just think positive thoughts about money. You don't affirm, I am rich, while feeling poor inside. You assume abundance is normal for you. You expect good things to flow into your life. You feel secure about your resources. You think from wealth rather than about wealth. You're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You simply know that prosperity is your natural condition. Let me give you a practical example. I once knew a man who wanted to be a successful writer. For years he struggled, sending out manuscripts and receiving rejection after rejection. He was living in the state of the unsuccessful writer, the struggling writer, the writer who might never make it. One day he decided to change his state. Instead of living as the struggling writer, he began to live as the successful writer. How does a successful writer feel when he wakes up, confident about his craft? How does he sit at his desk, with authority and purpose? How does he think about his work, as valuable as something the world wants to read? He began to live from this state completely. When friends asked about his writing, he didn't complain about rejections. He spoke about his work with the confidence of someone whose success was assured. He dressed differently, carried himself differently, even organized his workspace like a successful author would. Within a year, everything changed. Publishers who had previously rejected him began accepting his work. Opportunities appeared that he had never imagined. His outer world had no choice but to conform to the inner state he was consistently maintaining. And here's something fascinating. States are self-reinforcing. When you're in a particular state, you tend to think thoughts, speak words, and take actions that strengthen and perpetuate that state. When you're in the state of confidence, you naturally think confident thoughts, speak confidently, and act with assurance, all of which reinforces your sense of confidence. When you're in the state of worry, you naturally focus on potential problems, speak about your concerns, and act cautiously, all of which reinforces your anxiety. This is why it's so important, and I cannot emphasize this enough, to catch yourself when you notice you're in an undesirable state. The longer you remain in a state, the more entrenched it becomes, and the more evidence you create to support it. But the moment you recognize what state you're in, you have the power to shift out of it. I want you to become a detective of your own consciousness. Throughout your day, ask yourself, what state am I in right now? Am I in the state of lack or abundance? Am I in the state of fear or faith? Am I in the state of struggle or ease? Just this awareness alone will begin to transform your experience. The recognition itself is powerful, my friends. Most people are so identified with their current state that they don't even realize they're in one. They think their worries, fears, or frustrations are just realistic responses to their situation. They say, I'm not in a state, I'm just being practical. But when you step back and observe yourself objectively, when you notice I'm in the state of worry, or I'm in the state of lack, or I'm in the state of feeling unworthy, you immediately create some distance between yourself and the state. You realize that the state is something you're experiencing, not something you are. This is the difference between being conscious and being unconscious. An unconscious person is completely identified with whatever state they happen to be in. They are their anger, they are their fear, they are their loneliness. They have no awareness that there's a chooser behind the choice, an observer behind the observation. A conscious person recognizes that they are not their states, they are the awareness that can observe and choose states. They understand what Jesus meant when he said, in the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. He had transcended identification with external conditions. This recognition, I tell you, is the beginning of freedom. Once you recognize what state you're in, you can begin to deliberately shift into a more desirable state. But how do you do this? How do you move from one state to another? The key, and listen to this carefully, is not to fight against the undesirable state. What you resist persists. Resistance only strengthens what you resist. Instead, you gently redirect your attention toward the state you prefer. Think of states like rooms in a house. If you're in the worry room and you want to be in the confidence room, you don't have to fight your way out or destroy the worry room. The worry room will always be there. It's part of the house of consciousness. You simply walk out of one room and into the other. You shift your attention from the thoughts, feelings, and assumptions of worry to the thoughts, feelings, and assumptions of confidence. This shift often begins with a simple question: how would I think, feel, and act if I were in the state I desire? If you want to experience being loved, ask yourself, how does a beloved person think? What do they expect from others? How do they carry themselves? What assumptions do they make about their worthiness? Then begin to think those thoughts, feel those feelings, and make those assumptions. If you want to be healthy, don't focus on the illness. Focus on how a healthy person feels, thinks, and moves through the world. If you want to be prosperous, don't dwell on lack. Inhabit the consciousness of someone for whom abundance is natural and normal. At first, this might feel artificial or forced. Your logical mind might protest that you're just pretending or lying to yourself. This is ridiculous, it will say. You can't just pretend to be successful when you're clearly struggling. But remember this truth. Every state feels natural when you're in it, and artificial when you're not. When you're in the state of confidence, confidence feels completely natural and doubt seems foreign. When you're in the state of doubt, doubt feels reasonable and confidence seems foolish. The goal is not to convince your mind that the new state is true. The goal is to inhabit it fully enough that it becomes your natural way of being. You're not pretending, you're remembering. You're returning to your natural state as the operant power of your own experience. Now here's something remarkable that I want you to understand. States are contagious. When you're genuinely in a state of joy, others around you tend to feel more joyful. When you're in a state of peace, others feel more peaceful in your presence. When you're in a state of love, others feel more loving. This is not because you're doing anything to them. It's because states of consciousness radiate outward and influence the entire field of experience around them. Have you ever been in a bad mood and then spent time with someone who was genuinely happy and peaceful? If they were truly centered in that state, not just putting on a facade, you probably found your mood shifting. Their state of consciousness was broadcasting a different frequency, and your consciousness began to tune into that frequency. This is why changing yourself truly does change your world. It's not just metaphysical theory. It's practical reality. When you shift into a different state of consciousness, you literally become a different person. And the world must respond to this new person accordingly. The same situations that used to trigger worry might now trigger creative solutions. The same people who used to annoy you might now seem endearing. The same challenges that used to overwhelm you might now seem like exciting opportunities. I remember a businessman who came to my lectures. He was constantly frustrated with his employees, always complaining that they were lazy and incompetent. Neville, he said, you can't change human nature. Some people are just naturally unmotivated. I said to him, the problem isn't with your employees. The problem is with the state you're in when you think about them. You're living in the state of the frustrated boss with lazy employees. As long as you maintain that state, that's exactly what you'll experience. He was skeptical, but he agreed to try an experiment. For 1 month, he would live in the state of a leader who was blessed with dedicated, capable employees. Every morning before work, he would sit quietly and feel grateful for his wonderful team. He would imagine them being creative, enthusiastic, and productive. He would see them as the kinds of people any company would be thrilled to have. The results were remarkable. Within weeks, his employees began behaving differently. They started coming to him with ideas. They took more initiative. They seemed more engaged and energetic. Had the employees changed, or had his state of consciousness changed, causing him to see and evoke different qualities in the same people? But sustaining a new state requires practice and persistence. Old states have momentum. They're familiar grooves in consciousness that you've traveled many times. New states feel unfamiliar at first, like paths through unmapped territory. It's natural for consciousness to want to return to familiar states even if they're undesirable. This is why people often sabotage their own success or find themselves repeating the same patterns over and over again. Your consciousness is like a river that has been flowing in a particular direction for years. To redirect that river requires consistent effort until the new channel becomes deeper than the old one. But once the new path is established, the water flows there naturally. The secret to maintaining a new state is to live from it consistently, even when external evidence seems to contradict it. If you're cultivating the state of being successful, you must maintain that state even when your current circumstances look unsuccessful. If you're embodying the state of being loved, you must stay in that state even when people around you seem cold or distant. This is not denial or self-deception. This is conscious creation in action. You are not ignoring reality. You are choosing which reality to make real. Remember, there are infinite possible realities. infinite possible versions of your story. The one that becomes real is the one you consistently assume to be true. This requires what I call living by faith, not by sight. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is the ability to feel the reality of your desire before it appears in the world of form. It's the ability to be in the state of having what you want before you have it physically. Remember this well. Your external world is always reflecting back to you the state you've been consistently occupying. If you've been in the state of struggle for months or years, your world is currently reflecting that struggle. But the moment you shift into a new state and maintain it consistently, your external world must begin to shift as well. The change might not be immediate. Old patterns have momentum and take time to dissolve, but change is inevitable when you persistently maintain a new state of consciousness. It's like planting a seed. You don't see the plant immediately, but if you water it consistently and give it sunlight, it must eventually break through the soil. I want to tell you about a woman who understood this perfectly. She was diagnosed with a serious illness and given 6 months to live. Instead of accepting that prognosis, she decided to live in the state of perfect health. Every morning she would spend time feeling grateful for her strong, healthy body. She would imagine herself 5 years in the future, vibrant and energetic. She would think the thoughts and feel the feelings of someone in perfect health. Her doctors thought she was delusional. Her family worried she wasn't facing reality. But she persisted in her state. 6 months passed, then a year, then 2 years. When they tested her again, they found no trace of the illness. The doctors called it a miracle. But she knew it was simply consciousness expressing as form. This is the great secret that mystics and masters throughout history have tried to convey. As Jesus said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Notice he didn't say, believe that you will receive it someday if you're good enough. He said, believe that you have received it. Present tense right now. You see, you are not at the mercy of external circumstances, because external circumstances are at the mercy of your consciousness. You are not the victim of your states, you are the chooser of your states. Every moment offers you the opportunity to consciously select the state that will create the life you desire. But here's what most people don't understand. You're already doing this perfectly. Right now in this moment, your current life is the perfect reflection of the states you've been habitually occupying. Your relationships reflect the state of consciousness you hold about love and connection. Your health reflects the state of consciousness you hold about your body. Your finances reflect the state of consciousness you hold about abundance and worthiness. The question isn't whether this works. It's always working. The question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Are you deliberately choosing your states, or are you letting them be chosen for you by circumstances, other people, the media, your past experiences? Your states of consciousness, my friends, are the seeds of your future experiences. Plant seeds of confidence, and you'll harvest evidence of your capability. Plant seeds of love, and you'll harvest loving relationships. Plant seeds of abundance, and you'll harvest prosperity in all its forms. Plant seeds of gratitude, and you'll harvest countless blessings to be grateful for. The law is exact, impersonal, and unfailingly faithful. It doesn't judge whether you deserve what you're asking for. It doesn't decide whether your desires are appropriate or realistic. It simply says yes to whatever state you consistently maintain. Whatever state you consistently occupy, that state must manifest as your lived experience. This is both the most empowering and the most sobering truth you'll ever encounter. Empowering because it means you have absolute creative control over your experience. Sobering because it means you're responsible for everything in your life. Not because you consciously chose it, but because some aspect of your consciousness created it. But don't let this burden you with guilt or self-blame. Most of your current states were programmed into you before you were even aware you had a choice. Your family, your culture, your education, your experiences all contributed to the states you learned to inhabit automatically. You're not to blame for what you didn't know. But now that you know, you are responsible, able to respond differently. So tonight, as you leave here, I want you to understand this. The question is not whether you're in a state you always are. The question is not whether your states are creating your reality. They always do. The only question that matters is which states will you consciously choose to inhabit? Which seeds will you plant in the garden of your consciousness? Which radio station will you tune into? You are the master of your states, and your states are the masters of your world. Choose them wisely, inhabit them fully, and watch as your entire reality transforms to match the consciousness you've chosen to embody. You are not a victim of your states. You are their creator, their director, and their conscious inhabitant. In every moment, you have the power to shift. In every breath, you can choose anew. Your next state of consciousness is always just a thought, a feeling, a decision away. The only question that remains is, who will you choose to be? Will you choose to be the person who waits for conditions to change before allowing yourself to feel different? Or will you be the person who changes their inner condition and watches the outer world transform accordingly? Will you choose to be at the mercy of circumstances, other people's moods and external events? Or will you be the conscious creator of your own experience? Will you choose to live from the states that were programmed into you by others? Or will you consciously select the states that serve your highest vision of yourself and your life? The choice, as always, is yours. But remember this, not choosing is also a choice. Remaining unconscious is also a decision. Living by default is still living by design. Just not your own design. Tonight I invite you to become the conscious architect of your own states of consciousness. I invite you to recognize the incredible power you possess, the power to transform your entire world by transforming the way you hold yourself in consciousness. As I always tell you, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Tonight I say to you, assume the state of your desire, and persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. Your persistence will be rewarded. Your faith will be honored. Your consciousness will express itself as the life you've dared to imagine. The power is within you. It has always been within you. You are the operant power. You are consciousness itself. Playing at being human, temporarily forgetting your own creative authority. But now you remember. Now you know. Now you can choose. Go forth and create consciously. Assume the state of your dreams, and live from that assumption until it becomes your reality. The world is waiting to conform to your consciousness. The only question is, what consciousness will you give it to conform to? Thank you. And good evening. This is Best of Lectures YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.
Your reality is not shaped by effort or struggle, but by your ability to believe in the unseen. You are not a victim of fate. You are its master. The world you experience is nothing but a reflection of your inner conversations, your deeply held beliefs. The moment you accept this, you step into your power as the operant force in your life. Do not wait for circumstances to change before you believe. That is the great mistake of man. You must assume that what you seek is already yours. If you desire wealth, feel the security and joy of already being wealthy. If you long for love, feel the warmth of already being cherished. Do not wish, assume, do not hope, no. The only reason desires go unfulfilled is doubt. You waver between belief and disbelief, allowing the evidence of the senses to dictate your faith. But the senses only reflect what you have previously believed. If you persist in your assumption, even when the world shows you the opposite, the world must conform. It has no choice. This is law. Your imagination creates reality. If you will but live each day in the state of the answered prayer, your life will unfold in miraculous ways. Dare to claim what is already yours. Rest in the knowing that it is done. So I leave you with this. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Dwell in it, persist in it, and watch as the world bows to your command. The greatest secret of life is that imagination is the only reality. Everything you experience in the external world is simply a reflection of what you have imagined within. You are not at the mercy of circumstances, nor are you a victim of fate. Instead, you are the creator, shaping your reality through the power of your assumptions, beliefs, and inner vision. The world you see with your physical eyes is nothing more than a shadow cast by your internal state of consciousness. Change that. State and the world must follow. Most people live under the false assumption that life happens to them. They believe that external forces, luck, chance, or the will of others determine their experiences. But I tell you, this is not so. Your life is not dictated by forces outside of you, but by the thoughts, images, and feelings you habitually entertain. What you accept as true within your imagination will eventually solidify into your lived experience. This is the great mystery that few understand. Yet, it is the key to all success, happiness, and fulfillment. To master this truth, you must learn to live from the end. This means that you must assume in your imagination that you are already the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, you must feel yourself to be wealthy now. If you seek love, you must dwell in the state of already being loved and cherished. You do not beg, plead, or chase after what you desire. You assume it is already yours. The world does not respond to desperate effort, but to the quiet certainty of inner conviction. Every invention, work of art, or great achievement began as an idea within someone's mind. The telephone, the airplane, the great cathedrals of the world, all were once invisible thoughts before they became physical reality. Those who created them did not dwell on their current limitations. They saw beyond what was and lived in the reality of what could be. The same principle applies to your life. If you wish to change your circumstances, you must first change the way you see yourself in imagination. Many will say, "But I cannot imagine something that is not yet real." To this I say, everything you now experience was once not real in your external world, yet it exists because you accepted it as possible. Your present conditions are merely the outpicturing of your past beliefs. If you can accept this, you will understand that the only way to change your future is to change what you accept as true in the present moment. Doubt is the only barrier to manifestation. If you waver in your assumption, constantly looking for evidence in the outer world before you believe, you will delay or even prevent your desire from materializing. The world is a mirror. It can only reflect what you hold within. Do not wait for proof. Live as though it is already done. Feel the joy, the relief, the excitement of having what you seek, and let that feeling saturate your being. This is not wishful thinking. It is the law of consciousness. What you persistently feel and assume to be true will inevitably become your reality. The only requirement is faith, the willingness to trust in the unseen, knowing that it must become seen. When you fully accept that imagination is the only reality, you free yourself from the illusion of limitation. You no longer react to the world you created. You step into your power as the divine being that you are. So I urge you, do not let the world tell you who you are. Do not be swayed by appearances. Instead, create from within. Imagine boldly, assume confidently, and persist unwaveringly, and lie from the end, and watch as the world bends to reflect your highest vision. Thinking alone is not enough. It is not enough to merely wish, to hope, or to visualize passively. The great secret of manifestation lies in feeling, for feeling is the language of creation. What you feel deeply and consistently is what you impress upon your subconscious mind, and once impressed, it must externalize itself as your reality. This is the law. Many people mistakenly believe that they must force change through sheer effort, through constant action in the outer world. But true transformation begins within. The subconscious mind does not respond to empty words or fleeting thoughts. It responds to emotion. It is only when you feel yourself to be already in possession of what you seek that your reality begins to shift. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. Consider for a moment how natural this process truly is. Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so emotionally charged, that it felt entirely real? In that moment while dreaming, you accepted it as true. Your heart raced, your body reacted, and your mind was fully immersed in the experience. It did not matter that you were lying in bed. Your emotions made it real to you. In the same way, if you can lose yourself in the assumption that your desire is already yours, if you can feel the reality of it now, the subconscious mind will accept it as fact. Your subconscious is impersonal. It does not judge whether something is good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It simply takes whatever feeling you consistently entertain and projects it outward as experience. This is why people who dwell in fear, worry, and lack continue to attract more of the same. They may desperately wish for abundance, for love, for success. But deep down, they feel the absence of these things. And because they feel lack more strongly than fulfillment, lack persists. To manifest what you desire, you must reverse this process. Instead of dwelling in the emotions of what you don't have, you must cultivate the feeling of already having it. Ask yourself, how would I feel if my desire were fulfilled right now? Not tomorrow, not someday, but in this very moment. Would you feel relief, gratitude, joy, peace? Find that feeling within yourself and hold on to it. Let it consume you until it becomes your dominant state. This is not a technique of force, but of surrender. You are not trying to convince yourself or struggle to believe. You are simply allowing yourself to experience in imagination the emotional reality of your fulfilled desire. The more real it feels, the faster it manifests. There is no need to worry about how it will come to pass. Your only job is to feel it as real, to impress it upon your subconscious, and to trust the unseen forces that bring it into being. Some may say, but how can I feel something that is not yet real? To them I say, every feeling is real the moment you feel it. You do not need external proof to justify an emotion. You can feel love without a person standing in front of you. You can feel wealth without money in your hands. You can feel success before the world recognizes it. The moment you allow yourself to dwell in that state, your outer world will begin to shift to match it. This is why faith is essential. You must persist in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, even when outer circumstances seem unchanged. The world is simply a reflection of your past assumptions, and change takes time to crystallize. But if you remain steadfast in your feeling, never doubting, never looking for evidence, then your desire must come to pass. It is law. So do not merely think about what you want. Feel it. Become it in imagination. Let the joy, the peace, and the certainty of your fulfilled desire fill your entire being. And in time, you will see that what you once felt in imagination has become the undeniable reality of your life. Do not wait for the world to show you proof before you believe. If you do, you will remain trapped in a cycle of reacting to circumstances rather than creating them. The great secret to manifesting is to assume the wish fulfilled, to live in the feeling that your desire is already yours, even before the physical evidence appears. This is not a passive daydream, but a deliberate shift in consciousness, a way of being that transforms your world from within. Everything in your life right now is a reflection of your past assumption. The conditions you see before you, the relationships, the finances, the health, the successes or struggles, are simply the outpicturing of what you have previously assumed to be true. If you wish to change any aspect of your life, you must first change the assumptions that created it. The world does not shape your beliefs shape the world. Most people believe the opposite. They say, I will believe it when I see it, but this is the great illusion. You do not see first and then believe. You believe first and then you see. The unseen must be accepted as real before it can become visible. Every great achievement, every innovation, every transformation has come from someone who dared to assume it was possible before there was any proof. Assuming the wish fulfilled means walking through life as if your desire is already a fact. It means carrying yourself with the confidence, the peace, the joy of someone who already has what they want. If you desire wealth, do not dwell in thoughts of lack. Feel the security and ease of already being abundant. If you seek love, do not focus on loneliness. Feel the warmth and companionship of already being cherished. It is not about fooling yourself. It is about aligning with the reality you wish to experience. Your subconscious mind does not differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. It simply accepts whatever feeling you impress upon it as truth. If you consistently assume yourself to be healthy, successful, loved, and abundant, your subconscious will accept these assumptions and bring them forth into your reality. The world will bend to match your inner state, for it has no choice but to do so. Doubt is the only thing that can delay your manifestation. If you assume your wish fulfilled one moment, then question it the next. You are like a gardener who plants a seed, but keeps digging it up to see if it is growing. The seed needs time to take root. Likewise, your assumption needs time to solidify into form. Persist in the feeling of already having your desire, and the world will reshape itself accordingly. This is not a process of forcing or struggling. You do not need to chase after results or manipulate external circumstances. Your only task is to maintain the inner conviction that what you desire is already yours. The outer world is simply a mirror. It can only reflect back what you hold within. Change the inner and the outer must follow. Many will ask, but what if my current reality contradicts my assumption? Ignore it. Do not let appearances dictate your beliefs. The present moment is merely the result of past assumptions, and it has no power over what you are now creating. If you persist in the assumption of your wish fulfilled, the current reality must fade away to make room for the new. Assume boldly to walk in the knowing that what you desire is already a fact, and let the world prove you right, for it must. It is law. When you pray, do not pray as one who is begging, hoping, or wishing. Instead, pray as one who knows, one who understands that the prayer is already answered. The secret to manifestation is to live in the state of the answered prayer, to assume the feeling of already having that which you seek, and to let reality shape itself accordingly. Most people approach prayer as though they are separate from the very thing they desire. They ask and then wait, hoping that something or someone outside of them will grant their request. But true prayer is not about asking. It is about receiving. It is about assuming that what you seek is already yours and dwelling in that certainty. The mind often wants to concern itself with how things will unfold. It asks, where will the money come from? How will I meet the right person? When will my circumstances change? But the how is never your concern. The greater intelligence of life, the unseen power that governs all things, will orchestrate the means. Your only task is to remain steadfast in the state of fulfillment, to persist in the assumption that it is done. Consider a farmer who plants a seed. He does not dig it up every day to see if it is growing. He does not question whether the soil knows how to turn the seed into a tree. He trusts the process, knowing that nature will take care of the rest. In the same way, when you assume your wish fulfilled, you must trust that unseen forces are working on your behalf. The conditions, the people, the opportunities, everything required for the fulfillment of your desire will arrange itself in perfect order. You must dwell in the certainty that it already is. If you had already received your desire, how would you feel? How would you think? How would you act? Would you still worry? Would you still doubt? No. You would move through life with confidence, peace, and gratitude. This is the state you must embody now before the evidence appears. When you live in the state of the answered prayer, you become the thing you seek. You are no longer someone waiting for a change. You are the change. Your energy shifts, your actions align, and the world around you begins to mirror your new inner state. People are drawn to you, opportunities arise, and circumstances transform in ways you could never have predicted. But this requires faith, not faith in something outside of you, but faith in the power within you. The moment you surrender the need to control the process and instead rest in the knowing that your desire is already fulfilled, you free yourself from struggle. You move beyond doubt, beyond fear, beyond limitation. You step into the flow of life, allowing it to unfold effortlessly. This is why Scripture says, when you pray, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. It does not say to hope for it. It does not say to wait for it. It says to believe you have received it right now in this moment. This is the key. So let go of the need to figure it all out. Stop questioning, stop doubting, stop looking for signs. Simply be the person who already has what they desire. Feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude of the wish fulfilled. Make this your dwelling place, your natural state of being. And as surely as the sun rises, your world will shift to reflect your assumption. The world you see before you is nothing more than a reflection of your past assumptions, your past beliefs, and your past states of being. It is not permanent, nor is it a true representation of what is possible. The great mistake is to believe that what you currently experience in the 3D world is all that is real. To manifest your desires, you must persist in your assumption regardless of what your senses tell you. Most people are slaves to their circumstances. They look at what is in front of them and accept it as truth. If they see lack, they assume lack is all there is. If they see failure, they believe they are destined to fail. But this is not how creation works. The outer world is simply a delayed reflection of the inner world. To change the outer, you must first change the inner, and persist in that new assumption even when the 3D world seems unchanged. Faith is the ability to believe in what is unseen. It is the certainty that what you have assumed must come to pass. Yet faith is tested in moments when the physical world contradicts your inner vision. These moments are where most people give up. They say, nothing is changing. I don't see any results. Maybe this isn't working. And with that, they abandon the very state that would have brought their desire into form. You must refuse to let your senses dictate your beliefs. If you assume yourself to be wealthy, but your bank account shows a low balance, do not waver. If you assume yourself to be loved, but you are still single, do not despair. The 3D world is simply the result of past assumptions, and it takes time for the new state to materialize, but it must materialize if you persist. Think of a seed planted in the ground. If you were to dig it up every day to check if it was growing, you would disrupt the process and kill its potential. The same is true for your assumptions. You must assume your desire is real, and then allow it time to take root. The more you persist, the stronger that assumption becomes, until eventually it hardens into fact. It is easy to believe when things are going well, but the true test of faith is to remain steadfast even when the 3D world presents the opposite. Do not let fear, doubt, or external circumstances shake your belief. Your only job is to remain faithful to the unseen reality. Keep your mind fixed on the end result, and do not concern yourself with the how or when. Many great figures throughout history understood this principle. They were met with obstacles, ridicule, and apparent failure. Yet they persisted in their inner conviction. They did not allow the world to dictate what they believed to be possible, and because they held firm, the world eventually bent to match their vision. You too must have this kind of persistence. Walk through life with the certainty that your assumption is already fact, even when the outer world suggests otherwise. Speak, think, and act as though you already have what you desire. Do not let appearances fool you. The 3D world must change, but only if you do not give in to doubt. Most people delay their manifestations because they constantly react to their external circumstances. They check for evidence, then feel discouraged when they see none. But this very doubt reinforces the old state, keeping them trapped. Instead, persist in your assumption no matter what. Live in the end result and refuse to accept anything less as truth. Your faith must be greater than your senses. Your assumption must be stronger than the world's illusion. And when you master this, nothing will be impossible for you. The 3D world has no choice but to yield, for it is only a reflection of what you have persistently imagined. You are not separate from the divine. You are not a mere observer of life, subject to random circumstances and forces beyond your control. You are God's power in action, the creative force shaping your reality moment by moment. The greatest truth you can ever come to understand is that your awareness is the creator of your world. When you fully recognize this, nothing will be impossible for you. Most people go through life unaware of their own power. They believe themselves to be at the mercy of luck, fate, or the will of others. They see themselves as victims of circumstance rather than the architects of their reality. But this is a misunderstanding of the nature of creation. The external world does not create your experiences. Your consciousness does. What you assume, what you believe, what you persistently hold in your awareness is what becomes your life. This truth has been revealed throughout history, though few have grasped its full significance. When Scripture says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," it is not merely a poetic phrase. It is a law. Whatever you accept as true within yourself must manifest outwardly. Your awareness is the seed and the world is the harvest. If you believe in limitation, you will see limitation everywhere. If you believe in abundance, abundance will appear in ways you could never have imagined. There is no power outside of you that determines your fate. You are the power. You do not need permission to create the life you desire. You do not need to struggle or beg for change. You simply need to recognize the truth of your own being. This is the name of God, and it is your own divine identity. When you declare I am healthy, you set the creative power into motion. When you affirm I am wealthy, the forces of the universe begin to align. But if you say I am struggling, I am unworthy, I am failing, that too will be your experience. For the universe does not judge. It simply reflects back to you whatever you accept as real. You must take control of your inner world. Guard your thoughts, for they are the blueprint of your life. If you wish to see a new reality, you must first embody it in your mind. Feel yourself already in possession of what you desire. Walk through life with the certainty that it is already done. This is the great secret that those who awaken to their power come to understand. You do not become something you already are it. You simply awaken to the truth of your being. Many people doubt their power because they have spent years believing. Otherwise, they have been conditioned to think small, to accept struggle, to believe in lack. But no conditioning is greater than the truth of who you are. The moment you decide to step into your divine power, the old self begins to fade. Your reality will shift as your awareness shifts. Do not be deceived by appearances. The 3D world may tell you that things are difficult, that success is out of reach, that change is slow. But the 3D world is only a reflection of past assumptions. The moment you shift your awareness, a new reality is set in motion. Persist in that new state, and the world will conform. You are the power. You are the creator. There is nothing outside of you greater than the awareness within you. Live from this truth, and no dream will be beyond your reach. Whatever you desire, whatever you long for, it is already yours the moment. You claim it as so, for you are God's power in action, shaping reality with every thought, every feeling, every assumption. Recognize this, and nothing will be impossible for you. Everything you seek, everything you long for, already exists within you. The world is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Your awareness is the creative force shaping your reality, and once you fully accept this truth, you will know longer live as a victim of circumstances. You will step into your divine power, knowing that what you assume, feel, and persist in must become your experience. There is no need to struggle, chase, or beg. Simply assume the wish fulfilled. Feel its reality now. Live in the state of the answered prayer. Ignore the 3D world when it contradicts your desire and persist in your assumption until it hardens into. In fact, you are not separate from the divine. You are the divine in action. Your only task is to recognize this truth and live by it. Walk forward with unwavering faith, knowing that the world will rearrange itself to reflect your inner conviction. There is nothing outside of you that holds power over your destiny. You are the power, and when you fully embrace this, nothing will be impossible for you. Thank you for listening, and may you step boldly into the life that is already yours.